God is showing me that He's about to move me, that I'm not going to be here in Arizona anymore. And I'm moving to a different state, to a different location. And this is where the Sodom and Gomorrah has been coming up, because the people that are going to be left behind, the people that are going to be judged, the people that mistreated me, mishandled me, didn't do the things that God was asking them to do, showing them to do. They are going to be judged. They are going to, all the things that they tried to do to me, they will actually end up going through. So God had me go back to my childhood place, the home where I grew up, and to show me that it didn't stay the same. That the things that they did, the evil that they created, that they decided to walk with, isn't going to stay the same. It's going to change. It's going to end up not impacting the ones that they were trying to impact. Instead, they will receive the judgments and the punishment that they meant for others. So yesterday so the man that I was listening to, that I'm subscribed to, he was talking about be ready to wrestle with God. And I was like Job? Or like Jacob? Because Jacob was the one that became Israel after he wrestled with God, and God told him he would be um, the he will be the greatest nation and a chosen people of God. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. I thought it was going to be in my sleep. I thought it was going to be, a metaphorical challenge. I had no idea that I was going to hold God accountable for the fact that He didn't have to give me all these gifts, that He didn't have to bribe me, essentially. I'm like, you didn't have to do that. You know that. Like, why would you give me all these gifts and thoughts of all these things and then not bring them to fruition? And God was trying to walk away from me. I said, don't you dare walk away from me. You need to listen to what I have to say. Don't you dare leave me with my words in my mouth. I said, I am not letting go of you until you hear me, until you listen to my complaints, until you understand that I didn't need any of this. I didn't ask for any of this. You said this without me being the one to ask you, well, if you're going to want me to do all this work, you're going to have to, compensate me. I don't care. I don't care about your money. I don't care about the things that you could give me. All I wanted was you. That's all I've ever wanted. You're the one that started me on this path. And I said, you know what? I don't want it anymore. I can live by myself. I can walk the way you want me to walk. I can fight whatever you want me to fight. I can be tough. I've been through enough shit in my life. I don't need a partner. And if he doesn't want me, then fine. Don't force him. And this is everything I said to him yesterday. I wasn't disrespectful and I wasn't hurtful, and I didn't call him outside of his name because he's God. And I still respected his position. He's my father. He created me. But I laid it down. I said, you didn't have to show me any of it. I was willing to follow you with nothing. But you made these promises. You told me these things were going to happen. And they haven't happened. I'm still here. In fact, I feel like I'm going back again. And and this is when it changed. God says, oh, really? So you're going to go back to the family that left you? The family that hurt you? I said, no, I'm not going back there. And he goes, oh, so you're going to go to the ex-husband who tried to commit you? I'm like, no. Oh, so you're going to go back to the life you were living before, where people used you and manipulated you and hurt you? I said, no. Then stop saying you're going back. Because I'm not taking you back there. And I said, well, stop acting like you are. Because that's all I see is you taking me back the way I came. You putting me back in the places. You're sending me back to the places that I left. Places I don't want to go back to. And he said, and that's the heart posture I was looking for. That's what I needed to understand. Did you really change, or were you just saying the words? And he goes, I can see your heart, but you have free will. You can choose what you want to do. I'm like, oh. I said, please forgive me for speaking out. And he goes, no. No forgiveness is needed because this was part of your test, your final test. I can't send you to your spouse if your heart is in the past, if you're still holding on to the things that hurt you. Oh. And I said, then why do I keep remembering the past? Why do I keep going back to the things that... And he goes, because you're learning from it. I'm like, oh. Okay. And I said, so what am I learning now? And he reminded me of the things that happened between me and my spouse. When he brought back situations and I started talking to him about those situations. I said, I reminded him. I said, you know, I said, I was talking about something. I was telling him about something about the past. And I mentioned, this is back when we were just coworkers. We weren't friends yet. I said, the friendship was growing and developing, but at that time we were just coworkers. I said, I didn't seek you out. I didn't really pay attention to you. I didn't really know who you were because we were just coworkers then. And I said, but as our friendship grew, as our connection grew, I began to want to know you. I began to want you to know me. So I began providing information that I didn't typically share with everyone. Because he kept asking himself why I was sharing all this personal information with him. And it's because I considered him a friend. When I consider you a friend, I will start to tell you personal things. I will start to tell you about the things that made me. And so because of the revelation I was providing to him, you know, we were coworkers for 2.5 years, but we were friends for 1.5 years. We worked together for a year before we became friends. And it's interesting because he sought out the friendship first. When I first met him, I didn't think much of him. Like, there wasn't anything special about him. There was no connection. There was no, you know, he looks like the kind of guy that I would date. But his behavior and his attitude, I was not impressed by. Not at that time. But then God started to open my eyes and started pushing him out of his shell, getting him to talk to me. And we would talk about different things, sports, random topics. Like, all of a sudden God would put something in my heart and I'd be like, oh, have you done this or have you done that? And he'd be like, all the time. And he made me laugh. And the surefire way to bring my walls down is to make me laugh. But not everybody can make me laugh. It's a certain personality, a certain way of making the joke that makes me laugh and helps drop my walls. And he did that. He dropped my walls. But he also had some help from God. And so this morning, when I woke up and I was at the park and I was drinking my coffee, and it was almost 7 o'clock. Um, well, I guess that there's some other thing. Okay. So the way this all started was I woke up. Tell me why. That is a locust. And God says that He will bring back everything the locusts ate. I've never seen one this close. Usually they're the grasshoppers, but that is a locust. That's not a grasshopper. There's a difference in the way that a grasshopper looks to the way a locust looks. And He's watching me. So weird. Oh well, can't get him to move. Tries to fly in here though. I'm gonna have to close the window. He's just staring at me. Anyway, so yesterday, before I had the come to Jesus moment, I woke up in the early hours. Yesterday was no. I took a nap when I got off work on Sunday. And when I woke up, He's watching me and He's doing what I'm doing. He's going side to side. Anyway, so I woke up from my nap and, or I wasn't, no, I hadn't taken a nap yet. I got off work and I was falling asleep on the way here to this park, the same park I'm at right now. And I started crying on my way here, bawling about being tired and not being able to sleep, and I can't take it anymore. And this is how it started. This is how the confrontation with God started. And I say confrontation because that's basically what I did. I confronted God and I'm like, no, we're going to have this out. No, you're not going to push me away. No, you're not walking away. No, we're going to deal with this situation right now. And I'm not letting you go until you listen to what I have to say. And so, the rest happened. And so last night I sent him a text. Then this morning I sent him more texts. And I told him that when I saw him yesterday, that he looked solemn. And I said, I don't like seeing you serious. I like relaxed Ben. I liked my relaxed Ben. Your life is too hard to be so serious all of the time. I said, you should smile more. You should be happy. And I said, don't let them, because this is how God brought it back to me. He goes, do you remember back then? So in between all of these texts and all the things that I was saying to him, God is bringing me back to the past. And He was reminding me what happened after, for the first 6-7 months, him and I were becoming friends and we were getting to know each other and everybody left us alone. But as we started to share deeper things with each other, and we started to become closer, and we began, and so before it was like he was in one area, I was in the other. Now we're standing in the same area. Now we're shoulder to shoulder. Now we're face to face. Now we're, getting closer and closer and closer. And the boss man is watching our relationship grow. He was the one that realized that my husband was in love with me before my husband even realized he was in love with me. So without opening his eyes, he started putting doubts in his head about me. So the boss man knew that I would never, because I had made this comment when I first started, that I would never date a coworker, because that's how my ex-husband and I met. And I said, I'm not making that same mistake again. And of course, I also had a situation, well, it was not a romantic. It was a sexual relationship with a manager that I worked for. And I said I would never do that again. And the reason I was saying all these things is because the girls were adamant about wanting to know who I had a thing for. And I was like, nope, not going to. And God's like, just don't say anything. So the boss man used all of these revelations that I gave out of my own mouth to tell him, you know, she's not going to date a coworker. She's not going to date you. No, she's done that 23 years, blew up marriage. She's like, the boss man says, there's no chance for you. So I wouldn't even touch that. And of course, being an insecure man, because he doesn't want everyone to know that he has a thing for the old lady, because I'm older than everybody there. He was like, oh, no, man, I don't got things for her. No, you're crazy. We're just friends. We're just coworkers. We're just talking. We're just getting to know each other, you know? Once we know each other, then she'll go her way, I'll go mine. That'll be that. More time passes. The conversations are getting more intimate. I'm starting to touch him. He's starting to touch me. Boss man notices, and he pulls him outside and gives him the 411 about, there's this guy that comes in every day and he's flirting with her, and he's a good-looking cat, and he's a manager at another store. And he goes, you don't have a shot. And he's British. You know how women are about accents. And so he got the other girl, Cassie, to start asking me questions about the British boy. I'm like, no. She goes, why not? I said, because he's just looking for arm candy. He's not looking for anything serious. He just, he's the kind of guy that's gonna break your heart. And I'm done with that. No. So everyone else knew that except for my husband. And I was just like, God kept telling me, don't say a word. Don't defend yourself. Don't try and... But then slowly God began opening his eyes. So this man started really coming on to me, and I was like, I don't like it. So I started sidestepping this man. I started, whenever he would walk in, I would walk to the back, and then I'd watch the video because we had cameras, so I would watch the camera until he would leave the counter. I'm like, okay, now I can go up front. And so he saw this. He witnessed this by himself. I didn't have to tell him anything because God would have him standing there. And he goes, don't say a word. And then I'd be looking up and I'd be like, come on, Cassie, stop talking to this man so that he'll go sit down so I can go up front. And then he already realized when I don't like someone, when I don't want to be around someone, I will do everything in my power to get away from that person. So over the time, different things happened like that. So he got to see. The final thing was when I brought food for him. And the boss man went and said, what's this? To me. And I was like, whatever. It's for Ben. Leave me alone. And then he goes and talks to Ben. And Ben backpedals. And he protects himself and he saves himself. So I'm going back through all these things and I'm like, God, why are you bringing all that stuff? I'm not mad at him. I understand. And he goes, yeah, but he's the one holding himself up because he's afraid that that because of the mistakes he's made, that he's not good enough. So that was what yesterday and today has been about. This morning, texting him and telling him, don't let what others say about you convince you that that's who you are. I said, you are a good man. And you don't need the validation of others to know that. I said, God loves you. And I love you. And yes, I do tell him I love him. God has been having me do that for a while now. And yes, he knows he's my husband. I give him, I do as God tells me. And God says, hey, you need to tell him this now. I'm like, no. And he goes, yes. I'm like, no. I'm like, I thought that was your job. And he goes, and you are my willing vessel that is going to do what I want. Burn. I'm like, yes, sir. Guess what? I'm your wife. I'll be on the other side of your obedience. Oh, my goodness. And so God has been putting something on his heart. Now, God put the fact, that he had to tell on me and had to get me fired. And because this was all teaching him to be obedient to God. And so God was like, okay, my obedient servant, you need to tell him this now. I'm like, no. Can you get another vessel? He goes, you're the willing vessel. Let's go. I'm like, fine. Oh, my goodness. And so here I am, like, catch 22, right? Because I'm telling God, I'm your vessel, whatever you want. I won't ask questions. And he's like, okay, willing vessel, let's do this. And I'm like, but you're not doing it. I'm like, he goes, I'm doing a new thing. I've never done this before. But you have done it before because you did it with Esther. You're just doing it in a new way. And I'm like, I can't. Okay. So then, of course, and I told him this back then when he went and told on me, and then the last time. And he always looks at me when he's about to do something that is going to hurt him, that is going to hurt me. And he always has tears in his eyes because he doesn't want to. And of course, the boss man was nice and waited until he was on a delivery to his dirty work. Not Ben's dirty work, to do his own dirty work. Because this man was doing witchcraft, was doing all kinds of things to try and get me to fall in love with him. Not because he wanted me in love with him, but because he wanted to be able to stick it to Ben. He wanted to be able to say, ha, you are not better than me. I've got her. You were just a hump in the road for her. You have nothing on her. She didn't really care about you. He just wanted to keep him in place. Okay? Because he could see the blessings that were coming to Ben's life. And as long as Ben was happy living with the witchcraft, happy living in the muck, in the trash, in the dirt, then Boss Man would reap the benefits of the blessings. Because when you're around a chosen one, when you're around a child of God, you get blessed. It may not be as good as a blessing as if it was an actual, like, for example, if Ben had been walking with God all along and he only did as God led and only was around the chosen people of God that he had for him, his blessings would have been tenfold. But because he was still hanging out with the pigs and he was throwing his pearls into the muck, God was like, okay, I'm still going to bless you, but I'm not going to bless you as much as I could have blessed you if you were with someone of value to me. And so Ben didn't want to. He didn't want to go talk to the boss and be like, hey, she's still texting me. She's still talking to me. She's still bothering me. I can't do this anymore. Until I sent him a text and said, Ben, God told me that you need to do what he told you to do. And I said, and God had already told me what he told him to do. Oh my gosh. Sorry, guys. All of a sudden, my throat got really dry right then. So, God had put it in his heart to tell on me. Because this is how. So look at it as Ben was my Judas, and he's my spouse, and he's my Peter. So in the moment, Judas served Jesus up to be slaughtered. In a sense, Ben served me up to be slaughtered, to get terminated, to be removed from the facility. And he didn't want to. He didn't want to. He had sat on this. So God had originally wanted it to happen in February. But he knew it wasn't going to happen until March, which is fine because it played into his timeline. Because my job wouldn't be ready. My career, the new career he has for me, wouldn't be ready until May. So the timeline played into it. So on March 21st, Ben finally spoke up, because on Tuesday of that same week, I sent Ben a text and I said, God wants me to tell you that he has given you instruction and you are currently in disobedience. And I said, Ben, I know what you have to do. And I'm okay with it. I understand. This is how God wants it to happen. And I said, I need you to follow through with what God is telling you to do. I said, he's got me. Don't worry about me. I'll be okay. The next day I came into work and I saw Ben crying. And he looked at me and he was embarrassed because I saw him crying. But and it's not the first time I've seen him cry. And I never mention it. I never go up to him and I go, Ben, what's the matter? Why are you crying? How come you got tears in your eyes? It's none of my business. If he wants to share with me, he will. Unlike the others, when he's been late, they go, hey, Ben, why were you late today? I don't understand. You couldn't get out of bed? Did your alarm not go off? Like, what's going on? They're all nosy. They all want to know what's going on in his life. And he's like, no. And he has to explain himself. Instead of just having to explain himself to the boss, now he has to explain himself to the coworkers. But I don't. Instead, I wait. And I crack a joke. And he just looks at me. And he laughs. And he looks at me. And I said, it's okay. It happens to everyone. Don't worry about it. And he goes, yeah, I know. But I said, I know. But Will's late all the time. And he goes, really? I said, yeah. More than 9 times out of 10, I'm waiting for him 10, 15 minutes after 9 o'clock. Are you serious? I'm like, yeah. So don't worry about it. Everybody's late except for me. And I'm on the bus. And he starts laughing. So I don't make him feel like he's beneath me. It's not I'm not judging him. That's God's job. Jobs. God is going to take care of him, not me. So God reminded me of that moment. And I was like, oh no. I said, what did you tell him to do now? And he goes, what have you been asking me? And I said, okay, so yes, yesterday during the meltdown, I did say that you've been showing me that I'm going to get communication, that I'm going to get a text. And I said, weeks have gone by and I've gotten nothing. I said, just, if he's not going to text, if he's not going to call, it's okay. But stop showing me that. And that was God's response to, Okay, my willing vessel. I'm like, isn't there another one available? And he goes, at the tone, the time will be. And I'm like, oh my God, Father. If you guys know, you know. If you don't know, back in the day, there was a operator you could call and they would give you the time of the day. So it was like 411 was information and you could ask, what time is it? And it would say at the tone, the time will be 2:41 or 3:12 or 8:15. And so you could call 411 and ask him pretty much anything. Like, where is the address 2416 West Ventura? And they would tell you. It is located in the city of blah, 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 in the place of blah, blah, blah. And it would take you X number of hours to get there from your current location. So it was a pretty nifty 411. But there was another number that you could dial and it would give you the time of the day. And it was amazing to have that back when we were kids. Because back then there was actual operators who answered the phone. Not like today where it's a machine and, now we have our cell phones so we can check the internet, do our own searching and Googling and all that crap. Anyway, so I'm like, that wasn't funny. And he goes, but you laughed. I'm like, that is so mean. So I was like, what do you mean he's not being obedient? He's like, I've given him instruction. And he's holding himself up because he doesn't feel he is worthy of you, that he is worthy of communicating with you because he basically lied about his feelings for you. He hid behind a mask and he tried to pretend that he didn't have feelings for you. And now, because you're not there for him, you're not standing there next to him, making him laugh when he has a bad day, holding him up when he's having a hard day, helping him out when he has a busy day. Now he has to do it all himself. And the hours he's getting isn't because, it's work hours. It's because he doesn't finish his work. And they're like, okay, you need to finish your work now. And he's like, what the? I've been gone all freaking day because I've been busy all freaking day. And you can't get these people to help? And I was like, no, that's your job. The delivery driver has to clean the dishes. So get them done. You need the hours anyway, right? He's like, yeah. And while he's standing there doing the dishes, guess what God's doing? Reminding him, bringing up thoughts, memories, discussions.